First thing I want to share is I can't stand up here without mentioning May 6, 2017. When I met Pastor Bell, Carolyn, Keisha, I'm not sure if you were there. I don't think you were there that day. Sharon, that was the day that I was not even supposed to even be at that location. I found a book release signing for Stephanie Schelling on Facebook. And I told my wife, probably 2 months before that, I need to go to this book release. And the thing is, I was starting to do the opposite of what I told myself I would do, avoid crowds. So I did the opposite. I just signed up for this book release. My wife reminded me one Saturday morning, "Don't you have to be somewhere, babe?" "Oh, no, that's all right, I'm gonna sleep there." She said, "I think you should go." So I said, let me go, and once I get there, I'll see the exit, and I'll just go out the back door. But God, with his sense of humor, as soon as I get there, I see a waving hand. "Hey, Facebook friend, Stephanie." Never met her before. God planted in her so that she would make sure that I stayed. So I had to share that brief reason why I'm standing here with a book published by Noah's Ark Publishing. Without the heart and spirit of Pastor Bell being open enough at that event, I actually shared with him on that day. I said, we're going to be working together, but I reluctantly told him that. I said, I'm not a stalker or anything, but I just have to share that we're going to be working together. And he did a side eye like, And that was God putting a bookmark in that moment. So what I want to share shortly or briefly is I went from bullied to bully, and now I'm a servant soldier for Christ. So the beginnings, and this is why I needed this. Isn't it amazing how we all start? We all start like this. We all start that way. But isn't it amazing how we end up something like this sometimes? In my case, it was because of fatherlessness. My father abandoning me. But what I didn't realize at that time is that it was the enemy trying to keep me from walking in my purpose, even before I even knew about Jeremiah 1:5, he knew me before I was in the womb. But thank God for my wife, my helpmate, who's helped me meet the expectations of what God has always intended for me. And it's an ongoing process. So 18 to 24 years of being married, I didn't know how to be a man, still don't know how to be. But the thing about it, now I realize that being the head and being in my household, I kept making excuses about why I didn't want to take my rightful place and be the head. God would always share with me, just open up your heart. See, the big buffed out guy you saw was a child inside that was bullied. So when I started hitting the weights, getting a little larger, people started validating me in the negative way from the world's perspective. As I realized that they really liked me. No, they didn't. What I was really searching for was my earthly father, and I didn't even realize it. But being raised in this world, they teach us that you're not supposed to cry. You're weak if you do this or that, man up. But as I got older, I'm like, what does man up actually mean? But now being a kingdom man, I understand. A kingdom man stands for what's right. But I thank God, he didn't cause the bullying, but he allowed it so that I could understand what it's like to be the underdog, so to speak. And as my time goes, very quickly, I'm going to read an excerpt from my book. The title is, Where's My Daddy? Chapter 7. My daddy died. I felt nothing. I felt nothing for him, but I did feel abandoned and angry. He died without me being able to ask one simple question. Why didn't you want to be part of my life? My ears just wanted to hear the words, I love you, son. With his death, I knew this hope of hearing those words would never be a reality. I was deeply angry, and I didn't know how to feel. With all due respect to my mother, she did the best she could to provide for her family, but she couldn't teach me how to be a man. She actually fled from my father, and that's how we ended up in California, because he was so abusive. So when I look back, she never bashed him or anything like that. Never. That truly speaks to the character of my mother and her true trust and belief in God. I take full responsibility for all my actions, but I know my father's absence was one of the major contributing factors of my anger. During my childhood, I'm not sure how often I asked my mother about him. As a child, it didn't bother me when I saw other boys with their fathers. However, that would change as I grew into a man. At times, I would wonder what my life would have been like if I had a relationship with my father. Would I have been such an angry man? Would I have been able to avoid an addiction to pornography? Would I have known how to be a father to my son, who I abandoned for 9 years? Only God knows the answers to those questions and many others that I've asked. To sum it up, my mother wanted to go to Texas. We drove down there, kept getting this tug at my heart. I said, where is he buried? But I said it sarcastically. God's sense of humor, maybe a football field that way. So we found his grave. I asked my mother to lead me. And I said, God, I'm here now. Now what? So I wrestled with God, and of course I lost. He says, you need to forgive him. I said, that's not happening. But after a little while of wrestling and know I was going to lose, I forgave him. But that was the beginning of my healing. So once I forgave him and I started saying everything I needed to say to him when he was alive, I turned the finger back to myself. Lord, forgive me for not being the man that I need to be for my family. Making excuses of why people are this or that instead of owning up to my responsibility. So repeating the cycle of abandoning my own son for 9 years, the update to that, since my time is waning very fast. How God works. After I wrote this book, by the grace of God, sitting at the table with Pastor Bell, he helped me realize I had to reconcile through the Holy Spirit with my son, but my pride and my ego wouldn't allow me to. He needs to come to me. But God said, you need to get over yourself. It's not about you. It's about what I'm trying to do through you. You need to break the cycle. But my pride, but you know what comes after pride? But when I looked around, it's just him and I and our family. No uncles, no grandfathers or anybody. So I had to make a decision. And that decision I made, I start reaching out via text. Of course, he didn't reply. Then he replied, it was an angry text, but I didn't get into my feelings. Who he think he talking to? I was just like, Lord, I just want to reach him. He said, just keep trying, keep trying. And I kept updating Pastor Bell. As he responded, he finally said, let's meet up. So he was expecting to see the guy you saw in the pictures because that's who he remembered as far as my attitude. Like, who you think you talking to? But when he approached, I didn't know if he was going to kick, swing, drop. But I said, Lord, if he does, I'm just going to grab him and hug him until he stops. So we got closer. We did the bro hug. I said, okay, we're good. Then he's looking at me. The next thing I said, want to have a seat? So I'm like, Lord, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. We get to the seat. As soon as we lock eyes, I said, I own it all. I didn't know how to be a man. I still don't. But hopefully one day we can rebuild our relationship. So the same thing I did at my father's grave, he did it to me, but I'm still alive. So that anger, that rage, young man that wanted to change his last name, that's how angry he was. Look at God though. Update. He reaches out after we've been contacting each other. This is a fast forward. Can you film my engagement? I was like, sure I can. I was like, wow, thank you. And that was 2022. Early 2023, he said, would you mind being a groomsman in my wedding? When it's all said and done, I'm standing at a wedding in August of 2023 as a groomsman. Instead of him changing his last name, he's giving it to his new bride. So I give God the praise just for the changing of my heart so that my son can see the true son. So I want to end with Jeremiah 1:5. It really resonates with my heart. He knew me before I was even in the womb. But now I realize the enemy did too. He knew the purpose that God had placed within me. And this is only the beginning of what he is allowing to birth out of me so that I can reach as many boys and many men as transparently and vulnerable as I possibly can. If I can reach one, I've done exactly what I'm supposed to do.